Mark Schlereth. Look at Mark. So we were just talking about intel.
Yes.
And
Colin, good to be with you, by the way.
Good to be with you, Mark.
Thank you.
So I was at USC practice this weekend, and the Denver Broncos scout was there.
Really?
And he wouldn't give me any intel on what I really cared about. He was talking about college stuff. But somebody I trust told me about 4 days ago that the Broncos quarterback situation is really, really in dire straits, and that Paxton Lynch is not picking stuff up.
Right.
You have been, I've been told, to Bronco camp every day.
Yes. Yeah.
What's the story?
Well, here's the thing. It's really interesting because the college game, as you know, is so incredibly different. I mean, the field is different. The hash marks are different. And the game is different.
Right.
And so you're looking at young quarterbacks, and you're asking these young quarterbacks who play in a spread system, come on, they look to the sideline, and there's a card, and it's a fire truck and a rooster and, a bus. And you're like, hey, run fire truck, rooster, bus on 2, right? You don't call plays in the huddle. The coaches tell you who to throw it to. You're in this spread up-tempo offense, so the defenses that you face are basically stuck in zone the whole time, and nothing changes. And so they don't have a skill set to get to the next level and produce. And so it's really interesting because you're asking a quarterback like a Paxton Lynch to come in there who's never dropped from underneath center, who's in the shotgun, who all of a sudden has to know route combinations, route progressions. Oh, by the way, I've got to know protections. I've got to identify the mic. I've got to re-identify the mic and change it if I see a blitz coming. I've got to know all these things on the offensive side of the ball. And, oh, by the way, now I got to study the defense too. So while I'm dropping back a 3, a 5, a 7-step drop, I've got to read the defense. Where's the rotations of the safeties? What's the defense? Because you don't throw based on guys who are wide open.
That's college.
Right. You don't throw. It's not an individual thing like I'm a sight thrower. I see that guy open. I'm going to throw it to him. You throw the ball based on the coverage. So you're like, hey, man, first read's covered. I know they're in this coverage, so I know where to go with the football. I know from understanding the concept of coverage, I know who the open guy should be.
So these college guys are overwhelmed.
Completely overwhelmed, especially in these offenses. And the issue that we get into, we start talking about, well, Russell Wilson did it. Well, Russell Wilson played in a pro-style system at Wisconsin.
Yeah, and at Z State. I think.
And he was a quarterback. He was groomed as a quarterback who happens to be an exceptional athlete. The guy that's ruined it for everybody is Dak Prescott, because Dak Prescott came in. He has got this old soul, and he just transitioned automatically. Oh, by the way, he's got the best offensive line in football and a great running game. That helps quite a bit.
Okay, let's move to the Jay Cutler signing. It seemed obvious to me. There's a lot of Kaepernick fans, but I said it Friday on the show when Tannehill went down right before our show. I'm like, go call Jay Cutler.
Sure.
Obvious, right?
Totally obvious. I mean, he played for Adam Gase in Chicago, had his best season in Chicago. I mean, he was 3,600 yards. He completed almost 65% of his passes, 21 TDs, eliminated interceptions, only had 11 interceptions, which for Jay Cutler, that's pretty big.
Yeah.
And they spoke the same language. So when you're going out there and you're going, okay, wait a minute. Do I want to hire Colin Kaepernick and take 11 guys who have been going through the preseason OTAs and this preseason football camp
and
that we've been
and
completely
offense.
change the whole offense and the whole language? Or do I want to bring a guy in that speaks my language, who's had success in this offense? I mean, it's an absolute no-brainer.
It's remarkable to me. It really shows how many NFL reporters and football reporters in the country, like I quarterbacked in high school. I was awful. But I played the game. So I know that quarterback is a language. The idea that you would bring in Cutler, who can day one speak the language, or you have to go Rosetta Stone on August 7th and bring in a completely different language.
Right. Yeah.
Like, do these guys who cover football, do they play? Football is a language.
Right.
You know the comedy writer Larry David?
Yeah.
So he did Curb Your Enthusiasm.
Right.
So Larry David's a funny guy. And one day we were going to dinner as a bunch of people, and he was in the restaurant. He had listened to the show, and he came over, and he said to me, straight-faced, he goes, I think I could be the Jets' offensive coordinator. And I said, do you speak Italian? Well, I said, you do get that football starts with a language. It would take you 2 years to understand the language of football. Because,
Right.
like, fans watch it. So, to your point, Cutler's the E. There's no language barrier. There's no audible barrier.
Sure.
Now, what about Colin Kaepernick? There's people that say the word, I guess this is a media buzzword, blackballed.
Right. Like, do you really believe that all the owners have nothing better to do than to get on a conference call with 32 owners and say, let's not hire him? Here's the deal, man. You are always looked at like, we'll put up with whatever noise happens to be around you, regardless of what that noise might be, if we think you're legitimate. Like, if you can play, you're going to get an opportunity to play. If we think that the noise outweighs the value or your ability, then guess what? You're not going to get a job. That's the way the people believe, and certainly the social, what he stands for and the social injustice in this country, there's no question that it exists. And good for him for standing up for it, because guess what? You know, I remember Michael Jordan giving $2 million, and it was nothing more than a 6-second blurb on, on every media outlet there was, and then we moved on. This has created a buzz, and we have talked about it now for what? The better part of a year, right? So,
he's created dialogue. He's created discussion.
Absolutely. And so that has been good for the cause. And I'm 100% for that. And I really like Colin Kaepernick. I like him as a guy. And I've spent time with him. Bottom line is, do I think he can play in a traditional offense? And the answer is no, I don't.
I didn't think Tebow could play in one.
Well, my thing is, like, if you think that the only reason that Colin Kaepernick is being quote unquote blackballed by the NFL because of his social stance, then you happen to also think that Tebow is being blackballed by the NFL because he's a Christian. And I've got a bunch of tinfoil at my house back in Denver, and I'll make a hat for you, because that's not how it works. It's done. If they perceive you to have the requisite skill set to play quarterback in this league, guess what you're going to get an opportunity to do? Play quarterback in a traditional style. That style of offense, listen, RG3 had great success. How come he didn't have a job? RG3 doesn't have a job because that success in that style of offense, where Mike Shanahan and Kyle Shanahan amalgamated two offenses together, this Baylor system along with the West Coast system, and they gave him 8-10 completions a game in the Baylor system. And when people started defending it, guess what? It's like the dodo bird, man. It went extinct. Like, you can't sustain that style of offense and put your quarterback in harm's way, because that quarterback won't survive. And that's where we are right now.
Listen, when you think of Cap, when I think of Kaepernick, I think of him running. When I think of Brady, I think of him throwing. When I think of Aaron Rodgers, I think of him throwing. When I think of Cap, I think of him running. Same with Vic and RG3.
Right.
So in the end, that ideology, when I think of Johnny Manziel, I think of him running.
It's unsustainable, Colin.
It's not. And by the way, the NFL always takes chances on things. The wildcat, the run and shoot. But every 8 to 10 years, they go through an ideology change or shift.
Right.
The running quarterback thing, everybody's now like, yeah, you got to go. But even, by the way, Carolina coaches are all over Cam.
Right.
Stop running.
Right. And they were designing 10, 11 plays a game where he'd run the ball. Now they're like, yeah, that's not sustainable. We can't do that. Think of, you bring up the wildcat. Everybody in Denver, we had the wild horses, the Colts, the wild, stallions, and everybody did it. The Falcons, the wild hawks,
for a year and a half,
right? And then guess what? They're like, yeah, this is gimmicky and it doesn't work. And defense have figured it out. And listen, every time as a quarterback, every time you do this, you put the ball in the stomach of the running back and you look at the line of scrimmage, right? You know what you are? You're a runner. You're eligible to be hit. And listen, I'm not trying to be malicious, but if I was a defensive coordinator, defensive player, I don't care if you hand that ball off or not. You're going to get a mouthful of Rydell, and I'm going to try and knock you out of the game.
Of course.
And that's the way this league operates.
That's why LT
and that's why it's unsustainable.
Yes, and again, I'll say it again. The view of Kaepernick now is runner over thrower, and the window to do that, which was about 3 years, is closing. Russell Wilson now, 65% completions. Cam, coaches complaining about it. Kaepernick's got a lot of things that aren't working in his favor. That is one of them. That window, that ideological run window is closing. All right, so Tom Brady comes out and says, I don't really want to talk about concussions. I don't really think it's any of your business. And I got to be honest with you, Mark. I'm okay with him saying that.
Absolutely. I mean, it is none of our business. And whether you have one or not, that's the way it is. And, you know, it's really interesting, this whole concussion talk, because I myself, I mean, there wasn't a game that I played in where I didn't either see stars or knock myself unconscious for a second. Every game I ever played in. That's the way it is. And guys are going to protect their careers. Guys are going to protect their careers, and guys are going to go out there and play regardless. You know, this is why I've always been a big proponent. When I hear the NFL talk about safety being the number one priority of its league, of its players, I laugh. I go, because if it truly was, then there would be fully guaranteed contracts. How many times have you seen anybody self-report a concussion and sit out? One time in the history of this league that I can think of, Ben Roethlisberger. Why? Because I call it the 80-20 rule. 80% of the guys make 20% of the money. 20% of the guys make 80% of the money. When you're in that 20%, Ben Roethlisberger, when you're a franchise guy, you can afford to do it. Your job's going to be safe. The rest of us, doesn't work that way. So guys are gonna protect their turf. Nobody wants to get Wally pipped, right?
Right.
Nobody wants to walk out of the game, even if you are concussed, because you know that you're on a week-to-week, year-to-year contract. And so if you truly, as an NFL, want to preach safety, then make every contract fully guaranteed. So if I sign one and I get knocked out in the first week of the season and I need to sit 3 weeks, I know that I'm still going to get paid regardless for the next 3 years, so that you as an organization have got a vested interest in getting me back healthy on the football field, as opposed to, we'll just cut him. I mean, $3 million or $4 million for, and I know it's a lot of money, and people have a tough time with this, but I could go tip over the owner's couch and $8 million will fall out of the damn thing, right? Oh, I was wondering where I put that.
Right.
It's the way it is. So if you really want to protect our players, if you're really about safety, then guaranteed contracts should be the first thing on the table that you negotiate.
Mark, I said this, Goulet, Kristine was here, John, this was my big thing last week. I think football should be played, but for a shorter period. If you had a universal law, which was you can't hit until 15, and then you guaranteed money, meaning players leave by the end of their second contract 29, the window shrinks from now 11 to 34, 15 to 29, and that's 8 years less of hitting. And CTE with increased awareness of equipment, it's not just playing football. Let's just shrink 4 years early brain developing, 4 years later guaranteed. I think players eventually, like in the NBA or baseball, guys can leave early because they got the money. If you guaranteed money, guys would, and I don't think it's the worst thing, Mark, because owners would say, hey, my league's cheaper. I don't have to pay a veteran a third contract like Schlereth. I can pay that Colorado State lineman, the rookie. I think the owners don't see it yet, but guaranteed money gets guys out of the league earlier.
Yeah, well, you're probably right. I haven't thought about it, but you're probably right. Here's the other thing, and I believe this. If you play this game, and I don't mean to scare people, but if you play this game at almost any level, and you do enough hitting, you're going to do brain damage.
Yeah.
But what we haven't looked at is lifestyle. We look at CTE after that player is deceased, and we look at that brain and say, yeah, there's brain damage. I guarantee you, anybody who's played the game, myself included, has brain damage. I believe there's enough elasticity and connectivity in your brain to overcome some of those things if your lifestyle is right. But what we don't look at is, hey, man, my identity never came from being a football player. My identity came from being a husband and a father. That's where I get my identity. That's what's important to me. Football's what I did, and I loved it. And it was the lifeblood that coursed through my veins. I loved it, but it wasn't my identity. It's what I did for a living, and I enjoyed the heck out of it, man. And so I think that most guys, or a lot of people, and this is not just football players, this is people in general, man, they identify with what they do for a living. Well, at some point, that's going to come to an end. And when it comes to an end, how do you deal with it? Guys slip into depression. Guys turn to alcohol. Guys turn to drug abuse. Guys, the guys don't have a purpose in their life. They don't have anything to do. And if that's the case, I think that just exacerbates whatever brain damage you have. And I think there's a lot that goes into that we don't study. We just look at brains at the end of people's lives and go, oh, that guy had brain damage. Well, like I said, I think you can overcome those things. And I think you have enough connectivity in your brain to overcome some of the issues that you do to it during playing football. I guarantee you this, man. I have learned more life lessons, and I am a better human being for having played football.
I'm actually a better human being for having been around it. Like this weekend, I was around football all weekend. The relationships I have. I took my stepson to a practice. The time we had together. Like you're either into it or not, and if you're not, it's cool. But if you are, it's awesome.
Dude, I was at the Hall of Fame this week, and we celebrated Terrell Davis, man. It was phenomenal to be back with my teammates and be back with my coaches.
You laughed all weekend long.
It was just great telling stories, and oftentimes the stories come back to when I got knocked out in that one game, and I mean they're funny to us, but 99.9% of the guys would do it all over again. The only reason there was a lawsuit is because the NFL lied to its players forever.
Yep.
That's why.
Mark Schlereth, he's now at Fox. Damn glad to have him. It's the Herd.